Okay guys, I'm going to go through questions 1 through 12 and the multiple choice. So let's see how these go. First question, as Jennifer's work to solve the equation, there we go, is shown below, or part of her work is shown below. The question is asking, which property justifies her first step? Well, first of all, we have to figure out what her first step was. So from the given equation to step 1, what happened? What did she do? Well, if you look, the right-hand side of the equation is exactly the same. Over on the left-hand side, she took this 2 and she distributed it. So I want to look for the distributive property. Choice 4, distributive property of multiplication over subtraction. This over subtraction just means that she had subtraction inside the parentheses. There's your answer. For question 2, which value of x results in equal outputs for j of x and b of x? So what I'm going to do is on my calculator, I'm going to go to y equals and I'm going to type in these two equations. So the first equation I'm going to type in is 3x minus 2. The second equation I'm going to type in is the absolute value. So math, go over in 1 of x plus 2. And I'm going to go to the table and I'm going to figure out what's going on. I want the same output. So if x is negative 2, which is choice 1, if x is negative 2, do I have the same output? Nope, not my answer. What if x is positive 2? Then are the outputs the same? Yes, those are the same. That's my answer right there. Question 3. The expression 49x squared minus 36 is equivalent to, well, as you can see from all the parentheses, we have to factor. And because of the perfect squares, I'm going to use the method of DOPS. So I need 2 sets of parentheses, one's plus, one's minus, and I have to take the square root of 49x squared, that's 7x, and then I take the square root of 36, and now I have to find my answer. And it looks like choice 3, they have the subtraction and then the addition. It doesn't matter as long as you have one of each. There's my answer. All right. Question 4. If f of x is equal to, what is the value of f of 8? Okay, well in the parentheses I had an x, now I have an 8. So all I have to do, every place I see an x, I'm going to fill it in with an 8. So I've got 1/2 x squared, so that's going to be an 8 squared. I always use parentheses when I substitute in, minus, big parentheses, 1/4 times 8 plus 3. On my calculator, we got to type this in very carefully. So I'm going to use my fraction button. So alpha y equals option 1, 1/2 times 8 squared. Oops, squared. There we go. Minus parentheses alpha y equals 1/4 times 8 plus 3, close my parentheses. Notice I have it typed in exactly as I wrote it, and my answer is 27. Question 5. The graph below models the height of a remote control helicopter over 20 seconds during flight. Over which interval does the helicopter have the slowest average rate of change? Oh, we talked about this in class. Average rate of change means slope. So I'm looking for the slowest slope. So let's see. From 0 to 5 seconds. From 0 to 5 seconds, look what happens. My helicopter went from a height of 46 to 19. So in 5 seconds, it dropped a lot. So I'm not sure. Let's compare these. What about from 5 to 10 seconds? From 5 to 10 seconds, my helicopter only went up by 1 foot, from 19 to 20. That's pretty slow. That's a much slower rate than the first one, so I'm going to get rid of the first one. going to keep this for now. 10 to 15 seconds. 10 to 15 seconds, my helicopter went down 6 feet. Well, that's more than the previous one, so I'm going to get rid of that. 15 to 20, the helicopter went up 3 feet. So my answer is the slowest. That's the change where the y-coordinate only went up by 1. Question 6. In the function, I've got a kx squared, and I have the absolute value of kx. It says that k is a positive integer. Okay, we just talked about this. Positive, you know what that means. Integer means 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. If k is replaced by a 1/2, which statement about these new functions is true? So if you think about this, look at the first one. I'm going to go to my calculator. Clear out what I have from the other question. K is a positive integer. So let me type in, I'm going to type in 3x squared. I'm just putting some random positive integer. Now they're telling me if it's replaced by 1/2. So I'm going to type in 1/2. So notice that k was a positive integer, that's why it was a 3, and now I'm replacing it with 1/2. Let's see what happens. So here's my 3x squared, and now what happens when I replace it with a 1/2? Oh, there it is. So when I replaced it with a 1/2, my graph got wider. Okay, so now I'm going to do the same thing. So for this one, it got wider. I'm going to do the same thing with g. I'm going to clear these out. I'm going to do the absolute value of 3x. So I'm putting a positive integer in. Now I'm going to replace that positive integer with 1/2. So I had a positive integer, now I have a 1/2. And when I graph it, there's the 3. Now, oh, this is what my graph looks like when I replace it with 1/2. That got a lot wider. It got a lot more spread out. So let's see my choices. The graphs of both f and g became wider. There it is. That's my true statement. Okay. So again, it's just plugging and checking things on the calculator. Question 7. Winona sketched the polynomial as shown on the axes below. Here's her graph. Which equation could represent p of x? Okay, well, I'm trying to match an equation to a graph. Let me see what pictures look like. Go back to y equals. I'm going to clear all this out. I'm going to type in choice 1. X plus 1, x minus 2 squared. So here's choice 1. I'm going to put it on my calculator and see if it looks like what's on the paper. Wow, that looks almost exact. So that's what I'm thinking is my choice. I'm just going to check the other ones just to see if anything is different. Notice for choice 2, I'm going to change that to a minus, change that to a plus, see what happens. Okay, it's not that one. Choice 3, if you look at choice 3, it has x plus 1, and then it has x minus 2, but it has no squared. So I'm going to take that off. Okay, definitely not choice 3. Choice 4, x minus 1, x plus 2. And I'm going to graph that. And it's definitely not that. So again, I'm going with choice 1. Okay. When you're matching on a calculator, you kind of want to take a look at all of them just to make sure you're not missing any little detail. Okay. Question 8. Which situation does not describe a causal relationship? We just talked about this the other day. The higher the volume on a radio, the louder the sound will be. Does the higher volume cause the louder sound? Yes, it does. The first thing causes the second thing to happen. Well, I want the one that's not causal. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of this. Choice 2. The faster a student types a research paper, the more pages the research paper will have. I got to think about that one. Let me keep reading. The shorter the time a car remains running, the less gasoline it will use. So the shorter the time is running, the car's running, the less gas I use. That's causes. The first thing causes the second thing to happen. If the car is running for less time, it will use less gas. Definitely causes. 4. The slower the pace of a runner, the longer it will take the runner to finish the race. Yep, that's definitely true. I can speak from experience here. The slower I run, the longer I still have to get to the same finish line as everybody else, but it's going to take me longer to get there because I'm running at a slower pace. Okay, so now I'm thinking option 2. You know, I've eliminated the other ones. Think about this. The faster a student types a research paper, the more pages the research paper will have. Well, not really. What if I'm writing a 5-page paper and so are you, and you type it faster than me? You're going to finish the 5 pages faster than me. It doesn't mean your paper is going to be longer than mine. So it doesn't force it to have more pages. It just means you're going to type it quickly. So that's the one that is not a causal relationship. Okay, let's see what question 9 brings us. A plumber has set a fee for a house call and charges by the hour for repairs. The total cost of her services can be modeled by, there you go. Which statements about this function are true? A house call fee costs $95. I'm going to say that's true. See, if you reread this, a plumber has a set fee for a house call. That's your set fee. You have to pay $95 just for her to ring your doorbell, okay? Then she's going to charge you on top of that. The plumber charges $125 per hour. This is your rate. That's your slope. Yes, that is true. The number of hours the job takes is represented by T. Absolutely. T is my time. That is true. All 3 of these are true, so I'm going to pick option 4. Question 10. What is the domain of the relation shown below? Domain means x's. So you just want to pull out all of your x coordinates. That's all domain is. So I have a 4. I have a 1. I have a 0. Notice this, I have a 1. Well, I've already listed a 1. And I have a 4. I've already listed a 4. So these are the x values of my domain. That's it. So what? Some of them repeat, but those are the only x coordinates that I have. So my domain is going to be 0, 1, and 4. Okay. What is the solution to the inequality? All right, I'm just going to copy this down. And now I just have to solve for x. So the first thing I'm going to do, I think I'm going to subtract 2 from both sides. So I've got 4 over 9x greater than or equal to 2 plus x. Okay, so now, well, let's see, I got to get my x's together. I'm going to subtract x from both sides. For this, I'm going to get my calculator out. So on my calculator, 4/9 x minus 1x. So on my calculator, I'm going to do alpha 1. So I'm going to do 4/9 minus 1. And I've got negative 5/9, don't forget your x, greater than or equal to 2. So now I need to divide by negative 5/9. So I'm just going to do this very carefully on my calculator. So on my calculator, 2 divided by, and then in parentheses, I'll put my fraction, negative 5 over 9. And what do I get? Let's see here. Now x. Now I just divided by a negative number, So I have to flip my inequality, and I've got negative 18 over 5. Let's see if we can find that. Choice 1. There you go. Okay, question 12. Connor wants to burn 250 calories while exercising for 45 minutes at the gym. On a treadmill, he can burn 6 calories per minute. On the stationary bike, he can burn 5 calories per minute. If T represents the time of minutes on the treadmill and B represents the number of minutes on the bike, which expression represents the number of calories that Connor can burn while on the stationary bike? Okay, they're asking you which represents the number of calories that he can burn on the bike. This has nothing to do with the treadmill. All this information on the treadmill, I don't care about. T represents the minutes on the treadmill. Don't care. I don't care about anything but the bike. On the stationary bike, he can burn 5 calories per minute. That's important to me. And B represents the number of minutes he's on the bike. So if I want to know how many calories he will burn, 5 calories per minute, so 5 times B. That's your answer right there. It has nothing to do with anything else. There's a lot of extra information in here that you don't need.